Hey folks, welcome to part two of Conf 15 VS Code. This is settings, extension, help, and other fun tricks. So I got rid of all the stuff that was bogging down my extension, and now my for loops are nice and fast and everything. So I get my happy for loops. If you're scared by size t, just imagine this for int. Size t, you can just imagine it stands for size type, and because sizes of objects can't be negative, size type, you can remember that. Size type just means a number that's not negative. Like integers, they have a size limit, but they can never be negative. And it's actually pretty good for loops, because if you're starting at 0 and only going up, you're never going to hit negativity. So be careful, because if you try to make them negative, your compiler gets mad at you, or your program can get mad at you, but they're very useful. And the autofill of for loop here is for a size type. Similarly, I have my fast, well, actually, I'm not going to have fast includes because I disabled that part, but I'm going to have fast for loops and fast other stuff. And that's generally really helpful. If I'm finding the extension cumbersome or irritating, I can disable it via the extensions menu. This might be a review, but I can go here, I can disable, and I can reload. And this should be much faster because I disabled all that formatting stuff. And how I did that was by going into my settings of the extension. There are two kinds of settings in VS Code: global settings and extension settings. Let's go to global settings first. You can do Command-Shift-P in the command palette, and you just search settings. And I have mine just open to JSON, but you can open it either way. So there are two ways. And if you don't know what JSON means, that's OK. We'll get there. Settings can be control comma, or you can go from the gear here. Pretty easy. So I'll do control comma. We'll open my settings. This is the non-JSON format. Pretty easy. So say you want to do your cursor style as like block or underline or whatever. Many easy things. Now, if you want a more sort of computer reader friendly view, you can click on this. And this will take you to the JSON. You can also open it via the command palette. This might look horrifying to you, or it might look really appealing, depending on how you kind of like to think about it. But overall, it's pretty chill to edit here, because you can sort of get the direct numbers in a much more compact format. And a lot of guides online will actually direct you here. Now we have our extension settings. If we go to our extensions, go to C++, click this, we can go to settings here, extension settings. Make sure to click your remote if it's only installed remotely. Now, this is not going to find a lot of settings because I actually disabled a lot of them. But if I want to look in my settings JSON, I actually have just one setting, and it looks like it's deciding not to use it because I actually disabled these. But if you want to put a ton of settings here, like Matt Russell's big settings dump in your settings JSON, this is where you want to go. So if you're C++ extensions, if you want to put Matt Russell stuff in here, that's great. For me, it was slowing it down because I have a really old machine. But if for you it works, it's going to be great. It's really, really helpful. It auto formats a lot of stuff. It's really awesome. Those are your settings. Those are your settings JSON. The reason settings are not found, of course, is because this extension is disabled. I just realized. So let's re-enable it. And now we'll get our stuff back again in just a minute. Some output messages, it'll tell you if anything goes wrong. These are usually harmless, like it's saying my compiler type or IntelliSense type was changed for this based on my compiler type. But sometimes they can be helpful if anything breaks. I just remember to look at that. When you log in, your terminal can give you some connection stuff. To open a new terminal, you can just click the plus, or there are some hotkeys to do it. So now we're back in terminal. And that's more or less how to navigate the settings, extensions, whatever. There's also just some great stuff you can do with VS Code. More and more in programming, multi-cursor mode is becoming a thing in editors. So I believe Alt-click is multi-cursor mode. Yes, and I have two cursors. And say I wanted to change both of these couts to errors, I can just use shift arrow keys to highlight, or I could just use arrow keys, delete, 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 error. I'm just typing one time on my keyboard, like this is just as if I were typing one, but that does both of them at once. Similarly, if I have multiple lines of the same thing, and what you can do actually is you don't even have to highlight lines in VS Code to copy paste them. You can just, if you're on a line and you're not highlighted over anything, Control-C will copy the whole line. Control-X will cut the whole line. And now I can just paste them, right? So if I Control-X this, Control-V, it's there. Well, I like all these errors, but I want to change them all to couts. And I don't want to Alt-click down every time. So this is kind of a complicated one, but it's Control-Shift-Alt. So it's kind of every special key at once. So Control-Shift-Alt, arrow key, move your arrow keys. Up or down, and it'll create a new cursor every time. Now I can just highlight these, see out, done. That was a lot faster than changing all of them, right? And if I want to erase multiple things, I find the easiest is just to highlight them. There is, I believe, Control L highlights the whole line, and you can do that multiple times, whatever you like. That's that. As you can see, it's saving a lot more quickly because I disabled all those silly settings. That's about that. I'll see you one last time for any more advanced tips and setting up remote SSH.